Hello, everyone. Lenny Pinna here at my home in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. If you haven't been at my home before in a video, welcome to my Cantaloupe Counter Kitchen Confidential. These counters were picked by my mother back in 1970. She loved cantaloupe and the cantaloupe color, and so she was so proud of these cantaloupe counters. Notice the carnation I have today. I went to a Unitarian Universalist church on Sunday, which happened to be Mother's Day, and they let everybody pick a flower. So I picked this color in honor of my mother, and it goes with the kitchen. And so my mother was the first person that showed me how to make stuffed peppers. She made really good stuffed peppers. Although I, over the years, through working at different restaurants, developed my own process. So mine are unlike hers. Hers were very good, but I think mine are even better. I can say that. And I'm going to share that process with you today. I'm going to start by showing you the beautiful vegetables that we're going to be using, the multicolored bell peppers, along with the Vidalia onion and garlic and celery. And I will start at the stove to show you my process. These are the pots and pans I'm going to be using. I always start with some of the prep work, and that is, first thing is I make the rice and have that ready. There it is, steaming. Then I get my water in a pot boiling to parboil the peppers. And I'll show you something about that in a moment. And then I also have my sauce started and simmering. And then we'll be doing most of the work in this saute pan. So I'm sure you know how to boil water, but I just wanted to show you something in case you hadn't heard this before. When I was in high school, I learned that at this point, when the bubbles are just beginning, that's the time to throw in some salt. And that is going to make the bubbles boil, make the water boil faster. There's something about the chemical compound mixing at the perfect temperature that causes it to accelerate. So I start with dicing celery. And I know after I washed it, my mother always used to pull all of those like strings off. I don't do that. I learned in another course that that's where all the moisture is. That's the feeding tube, the moisture tube. And so I just leave them on, but there's no need for it. What I do is I cut my celery in segments, and then I make them into strips, thin strips. And then I dice them into little dices. When I was young, my mother used to make me chop the celery and the onions. The celery, she had one of those old-fashioned, at the time, they were one of those containers where you would hit it, the button to go down, and it would chop it all up. But I do it this way. It's kind of neater and, I don't know, a little more precise of getting kind of like a nice dice. So I put my celery in the pan. That all came from one stalk. I use one stalk per pound of meat, and a pound of meat will do 4 peppers. So I'll remind you of that proportions later, so you decide if you want to make 4 or 8 or 12 peppers. So I used one stalk of celery. So after I peeled my onion, I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to say proportion-wise, you either need like a medium onion or half of a large onion per pound. Again, my mother made me chop the onions because she didn't want to cry. So I've always been chopping onions ever since I was young. Right. For me, the trick is not getting all this on the floor. So I added my diced onion and mixed, and I try to get kind of proportionate, half and half, onion and celery. Now I will add the garlic. So per pound, which is about 4 peppers, I use 1 large clove of garlic or a couple of small or medium size. A little extra garlic's never a problem for me. So I'm going to use 1 large. I might even get a little small bud out of there. And I used to finely dice my garlic, but now I use my garlic press. So now I'm going to saute the onions, celery, garlic with a little olive oil and water, and I'm going to put the lid on. And while that's cooking, I'm going to work with the peppers. So I begin to cut the tops off of the peppers, and I remove, of course, the middle part with the seeds, and I save all of the tops, the rings, for dipping in hummus. Look at that, they make natural petals for any kind of dip. I use hummus, but you can have any kind of dip. So these get eaten as well. So I'm going to just get my peppers ready. I'm going to cut extra because I'm going to make a little bit extra, but I'll show you with 4, but I'm going to cut a little extra. Okay, now to the stove. So I've added the peppers to the boiling water, and I'm going to let them cook for probably about 5 minutes. And I want them to be tender. I don't want them to be crunchy, or I don't want them to be mushy. I want them to just have a nice tenderness to them. So now we check on onions and celery. Oh, it's doing well. I'm going to wait till the water evaporates and that everything is sort of translucent, and then I'm going to add the meat. Okay. So now begins the choice. I'm choosing to use ground pork. I often use sausage, ground pork sausage, which is lumpier, and I have to spend time chopping it up a little bit in the pan. I thought to show you I would use the ground pork today. You can use, as a lot of people do, ground beef. You could use ground lamb. You could do a mixture of beef and pork. You can mixture of hot sausage and sweet sausage. The meat content is up to you. You can even use Beyond Meat if you're a vegetarian. I've made stuffed peppers with the meat substitute, and they've come out really great just as well. So I'm going to be using the pork, ground pork. So, this is what we want. When the onions and the celery are almost translucent. Now I'm going to add the meat. I'm going to keep getting dollops of the pork. This is hard to do with one hand. So I'm going to take a moment to get all the pork in and start the browning process. So I am now folding the meat and the vegetables, which is also difficult to do with one hand. So I'm going to continue until I have them to where I want it, and then I'll show you. So when the peppers are really coming to the top, that's a good sign that they're done. I'm just going to pick up and see, yeah, got a little bit of that tenderness. Okay, I'm going to put them in a bowl. So I've put them in a bowl, and they are steaming hot. And while I'm cooking the rest of the meat and getting everything else prepared, they continue to just cook, and they just become nice and tender. So now that I have the pork browning, I start to add fennel seed. I love fennel, like sausage. I love fennel with pork. So I add fennel seed. and let it cook with the meat. Oh, it's already added that beautiful fennel anise smell in the air, the scent. So I also picked some fresh oregano from my herb garden, and I'm going to chop that all up. I like to combine, I'm making the camera move. I like to combine sweet and savory. So the fennel has sweetness, the oregano has a little sharp, dry, savoriness, and then the tomato sauce is going to be tomato basil. So I just like having different nuances in the flavor. So the meat's nicely bubbling there. I'm going to now add that fresh oregano. Oh, the smell is wonderful. So now it's time to add the rice. And what you want proportionate to be like 2/3 meat, I think, and 1/3 rice. I like to be very meaty. Now that the rice is folded in, this is what really makes the difference in stuffed peppers being moist. I add some of the sauce to the mixture now and fold it in. Now at this point I turn the heat, which has been on high the whole time, I turn it down to more of a simmer. And this is where I add the other secret, it's not really a secret ingredient, but it's Romano cheese. This is what really flavors it. And of course, this is what also adds more salt. So I add a nice amount of Romano cheese, fold that in, and now the mixture starts to actually get more what I call unctuous, where it starts to thicken a little bit. And I'm going to let that cook for a little bit now. Now the fun begins. You can see the peppers. They have just this little bit of tender flexibility to them. It is going to be time to start putting it all together. So I've lined a little square pan with the aluminum foil, and I'm going to place peppers creatively, colorfully in the pan. Let's see, we got one of each there. Red, yellow, green, and red. Although, you know what? I love this one. This one is green and yellow. I'm going to put that one in there. So, this is what we're going to stuff. So I've brought the pan with the mixture over to this area so that you can actually see me stuff. I use a big spoon and just start to put some in each one. And keep going back, keep going around and around until I get them stuffed. I often use these big peppers. They take a lot of stuffing. Get them nice and stuffed, pat them down. Just to let you know, this was more like 1.5 pounds of meat. So it really is about if the peppers are medium, small, medium, 1 pound. But I would always maybe go to 1.5 pounds, or 1.25 pounds, 1.5 pounds, just to be safe if they're big peppers, because I like them stuffed like that. So the next thing is, off the stove, I grab the tomato sauce that's been simmering. Now I use a tomato basil sauce, And you know what? I didn't make the sauce from scratch. I used a jar. 1 jar of sauce is good for, 4, or there's even a little bit left. And when there's a little bit left, what I do is I stick it down in the crack between the peppers so that at the base, it's even getting some of that tomato around it. And the final, my Romano cheese sprinkle. And this is what they now look like. So I'm going to create a tent over this pan so that the foil is not in the sauce, and let it be fairly tight. So what happens, it's going to bake and still steam these in the oven. I forgot to tell you that I preheated the oven to 350. Okay, we are now going to bake the peppers at 350 for 50 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of the pepper. I'm gonna cook this one for an hour. So while the peppers are baking, I'm gonna do some cleanup. But I wanted to mention that what's really nice about these peppers is that you can make them the day before and put them in a refrigerator. They actually get better because the flavors will meld in even more deeply. You may know dishes that do that. So you could always make this the day before, and then maybe a half an hour before you want to bake them off the next day, take them out so they start to temper, and bake them for an hour. And so I love this. I love if I know something's happening the next day that I can do it the evening before and just bake it off in an hour the next day. So I will show you the results in a few minutes. Well, that hour went by quickly. Time to take out the peppers. And we will unveil. Be careful with this part because the steam that is going to come out. Let's see. There they are. There's ground pork stuffed peppers. Ooh. Now it's time to taste. So I do recommend letting them sit for a few minutes. I let them sit on the stove a couple minutes till the juices and everything settle in. And then I use these tongs, long tongs, to grab them. Ah, there we go. Sitting in the middle of the plate. That's the multicolored one. Okay, now let's cut through and open. This is the time, if you like extra cheese, you can put extra cheese on. I'm going to taste it as it is, though, first. Okay, the time has come. Try to get a little bit of everything, the pepper and the meat and the rice. Mmm. They're delicious, if I must say so myself. I haven't had them plain pork for a while. I've been doing a lot of the spicy sausage. But I'm really, really liking them. And so this is the cooking process for my stuffed peppers. And I'd like to thank my film crew. Wouldn't it be nice? Wow, how much fun I could have. Somebody else setting the shots. But this has been a real fun adventure, and I will hope to do it again sometime. So thank you for joining me for this video, and ciao, everyone.